Hey, folks, this video is for my family, for just, I don't know, 5 or 6 people. And if you can read it, it's the 613 Commandments, Part 3, Remastered. And this guy takes the Old Testament law and he explains it in English. And I wasn't looking for this particular teaching this morning, but it come up in this part of this series that I do watch from time to time. But this will explain to my family why I've taken the position that I've taken against my kids. So you have to understand that, it's not just me involved in it, it's my wife. Now the first part of this talks about a kid striking their parents. And my children have not hit me or my wife. But my children, particularly one of them, have participated in this activity right here that this man talks about. Not in the striking of the parents, but there's another part to it. And I'm not letting them come back around until they straighten up. Now, there's the Old Testament required that they be put to death. And when I look at the Old Testament, and it required that they be put to death for these things that they've done, or one has done particularly, and the other one didn't stand up and protect his mama from it or to even defend her from it, then that's left to me to do it. And I am a big enough jerk, if that's what the world wants to call me, to do it. But I'm not being a jerk. Listen to this.
48, Commandment 48, which is, you shall not strike a parent. Exodus 21 and in verse 15. And he who smites his father or his mother shall certainly be put to death. That's pretty strong stuff. But we have to remember that as these instructions are going out, and I think some of us who are parents can understand, and some of us as adults can understand, without a really strong, abiding understanding of honoring and respecting of authority, you get nothing but rebellion and chaos. You get nothing but rebellion and chaos. And it's got to start with the children. And so the children needed to learn so that when they became adults, they would already understand how to properly deal with authority figures. Because ultimately that's what we're talking about here. It's not just that it's your parents by birth, but it's an authority figure that you need to respect. And again, let's not confuse respect with blind obedience. Because there are those who are parents and that are in authority that we should be very careful about being blindly obedient to. But let's use David as always as our example. While he did not have any interest in being blindly following King Saul, who was trying to kill him, he didn't have any interest in striking him either. He respected the man and the position. And so you can respect a bad authority. You can respect a person abusing their authority. You can still treat that authority with respect. This is kind of like maybe the thing with the saved. How salvation and faith and works are interactive. Well, there's an interaction relationship between respect and obedience, honoring and obedience, following and respect and obedience. There's a relationship in there. And we have to, I think, do a teaching, which we're planning to do, on how that relationship all fits together. But here we're told very specifically, hey, it says, he who smites his father or his mother shall certainly be put to death. And so that's a strong thing. And by the way, if the children all understood that, I would find it very hard to believe that too many would actually go out and do that, knowing that that was the law, that was the commandment. Verse 16 and 17 deals with commandment number 49. You shall put to death anyone who kidnaps or curses a parent. So let's read those verses. And he who kidnaps a man and sells him, or if he is found in his hand, shall certainly be put to death. And he who curses his father or his mother shall certainly be put to death. And so we have an instruction here, again, very strongly, capital punishment was approved by the Almighty. And so that's something that we could debate societally, in a societal way, like whether or not capital punishment is right or wrong or this or that. Well, in this book here, in the book of Exodus, in the book of Shemot, the Almighty is instructing capital punishment. He who does this shall be put to death. He who does that shall be put to death. And it was, I assure you, a strong deterrent. It was a very strong deterrent. And by the way, with those who it wasn't a deterrent, it also eliminated the problem from happening more than once. Okay, maybe it wasn't a deterrent to keep them from doing it in the first place, but certainly once you put them to death, they were not doing it a second time. So it minimized the damage that someone who didn't care about the instructions, didn't care about the law, they only could do so much damage before it would be ended. Because capital punishment would eliminate that problem. And so, because people will say, well, capital punishment is not a deterrent because those people that are doing these kind of things are crazy and they don't care. They don't have a fear of the law. Well, that may be the case. But they would only be caught, do it once, and then they were not going to do it ever again. And so it solved the problem, even if it didn't prevent it from happening the first time. And so for those that it would cause a fear to do it, that was great. If not, it eliminated the problem. Let's continue in number 50. Number 50 is, you shall pay for any loss you caused anyone to suffer.
Okay, family, I just gave you the Old Testament doctrine on this situation. Now, we don't put people to death today for this. And I wouldn't suggest that we should. But I'm telling you, if you're a man and you allow your children to mistreat your wife, you're violating this right here. The only thing you can do when your children start mistreating your wife, I'm not talking about arguing with your wife. I'm not talking about arguing with you. I'm not talking about getting mad. I'm not talking about having bad arguments. As children, when they become adults, we're going to have some of this. But when it gets to the point that it got with Cody and my wife, and we all agree it was caused, primarily because of Cody's wife. And he gave into that. And we all agree what we think, that she's got something wrong with her. It doesn't matter. He was supposed to handle that situation on his side. And he was supposed to say, I'm not doing my mama and daddy that way. I'm not keeping the grandbaby away from I'm not keeping our daughter away from their grandparents. And Cody has got himself in a situation that I don't have me and my wife in. And that's having to put up with that wife of his or him. Now, and I'm not putting up with nobody that has suggested that my wife should have to put up with that. And that's why I responded the way I have. I'm not mad at anybody, but I've got it right here in the Old Testament that they used to would have put these people to death for what they've done. I'm keeping them away from my house and my family. And believe it or not, that's showing them mercy.